A few days ago, I'm rounding out the end of a long day of teaching. I had subbed school in the morning and came into the shop in the afternoon for a full schedule of students. I get into that last lesson of the day and I start like I always do by asking the student how their week was and if they'd done anything fun or exciting, or boring or lame, or just, what happened. Before I know it, the entire half hour had flown by and we hadn't played at all. I made a comment to the student about it just to make sure they didn't feel slighted, and they actually went out of their way to mention how beneficial they thought it was. I know that for most teachers watching this, you know that this is okay. You've been through this many times before. This video is for those of you that are new to teaching, who haven't had many of these experiences yet. And I do it because for the first few times that it happened, I had mixed feelings about it. I knew that things felt right about the lesson, but the form was off. At times, I can still feel a bit weird about it. Talking about this with a friend of mine, he pointed out something that I hadn't thought about. As a teacher, you might be the only one in that student's life that can hang in talking about music for a half hour or an hour. You're probably the only one in their life that has significant musical knowledge and experience. When they talk to their friends about music, they're mostly trading information at that same level. But you can be a source for next level thought, or at least a very different perspective, which honestly is the same for you relating to them if you're sufficiently removed from their musical experience. Not only this, but there's a good chance that not only are you the only adult in their life that is a professional musician, but the only person that has a self-employed freelance style job. You're a living example that people can be the things that most people tell them they can't be. That when people say you can't do that, it's a lie, because you're doing it. With some students, the talking part of the lesson becomes the dominant part of the lesson. I've had one such student's mother come up to me and tell me that I'm the only one in her daughter's life that gets it, that understands what it's like to need to practice for 3 hours, and that that's an okay thing and that it's normal, and it's not because she needs the time to get the required skill, but because it fills something inside of her, that it's important to her. The musicians that she's playing with, her friends, don't have that drive, but she does. She's made that jump past hobbyist to the point where it's an integral part of her identity. You can be that person. You can be the person that gets it. There's another student I had where over time it developed that we talked most of the time, and that's what we did. That there was very little playing going on. When that started to happen, I started to question myself more and more. Am I doing the thing that's right for the student? Is this the right thing for them as a musician, as a drummer? Eventually, this student did what I like to call they aged out. They graduated high school, and it was time for them to move on, and that's very normal. And a couple weeks later, I ran into the student's father just out and about, and we talked for a minute, and he thanked me profusely for being a positive influence on his son. And I didn't realize that it was that much of an impact, but he made a very big deal about it. And me and that student have gone on to be friends as adults, and it's very cool and a very fruitful relationship, but it was just, I was taken aback. I didn't realize the impact that the father had seen. So you can be that as well. Each lesson is as individual as every student is individual, and you have to find the right thing for that student. You don't have to follow the form. The form is kind of a lie, right? There's no one way to teach how to be a musician, to teach how to play drums. So you need to be okay with talking sometimes. Sometimes you have to be okay with not talking. Sometimes a student comes in and it's just apparent that we need to run exercises all day long because they're trying to ignore something else in their life. They're trying to forget something else in their life, and they just want to play. Whether you like it or not, you're a part therapist. You're a strong adult in their life. You're a strong influence in their life. and you need to help them and do what's right for them. And sometimes that's talking about music. Occasionally it's talking about things that aren't music. Sometimes it's doing nothing but musicking, and most of the time it's a balance of those things. Do what feels right, even if it feels a little off. Thanks for liking, commenting, and subscribing. That's it.